in 4, 3, 2.
All right, welcome everyone to the Reimagined Art of Cooking for 2022. This is our 12th year. A virtual event is new for the Arts Council this year, and so everyone at home probably has all their delicious items that we'll be eating this evening. And Tatum Broadband has expanded our broadcast capabilities. The chefs that made the meals tonight are from the past for Take 2 with new recipes. And I also have some great panelists here with me this evening. And Cindy, I'll start with you. You want to just introduce yourself to our audience at home?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Cindy Garland, and I was invited here because I'm a home chef. So if I can do it, you can do it. Believe me.
Wonderful. And Catherine, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're a panelist tonight.
Hi, my name's Catherine Gratton. I call myself an unprofessional chef because I've learned everything from watching YouTube and cooking shows, and here to participate and give some feedback from that unprofessional side.
All right. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're glad to have everyone at home with us this evening. So we're going to start with some videos of our chefs making their meals, and then we're going to go right where you can ask questions, everyone at home. But first we want to start with an introduction to our chef Todd from Fountainhead Country Club.
Coming to you.
My name's Chef Todd Reynolds. I've been here for 32 years. I get recipes from the guest chefs, and then we do a tasting, and then we go from there. And the night of the function, they're down here in the prep kitchen where we do a lot of the prep for fish and meats when we have major parties outside of the art of cooking. And then I go back upstairs and get everything ready for 150, 200 people. It's different from any other event. I mean, that's what makes it unique. It's hard to describe. It's the timing. They're down here prepping everything, and while they're prepping, I got to start plating, and just the idea of getting the food out at the same time as they're finishing up. Most of the cooking doesn't take place down here. It's upstairs in the main kitchen, so we can go up there and take a look at that shortly. So for the art of cooking, what I do is the first course is chicken wrapped in bacon with a barbecue sauce. That'll probably prep downstairs in the prep kitchen where they are now. I'll bring it up the night of the party. It'll go in this oven. I'll probably do it like 450 degrees because I want the barbecue sauce to stick to the bacon, get nice and crispy. The plates will be at this end. We'll plate up, pull these lights down, keeps the food hot as we're plating up. Rolls off the line on the trays and out the door. But this week we're going to be putting in boxes because it's to-go orders, so it'll still be as good, so I hope everybody enjoys it. Second course is the Boston lettuce salad with caramelized butternut squash and Brussels sprouts, a cider dressing. That'll all be done downstairs. Main course, beef Wellington. I'll take the fillets and I'll sear them off in this kettle. Gets up to 500 degrees, so put a nice sear on it, nice and brown. And then there's other processing that, wrapping in the puff pastry, the foie gras, the mushroom duxelle, same process. All these lights come down, plated up in the boxes, out the door. Dessert, that'll be done downstairs, and my pastry chef, Dawn Bope, she'll be making all that. And so I hope everybody enjoys that also.
All right, so of course, everyone at home, the traditional event is held at Fountainhead Country Club every year. Because of the pandemic, we've reimagined the event this year, and you had lots of take-home bags. In those take-home bags, there were 2 bottles of wine. We're going to talk about those now.
Okay, hold on, guys. I've got to find the wine thing.
Actually,
No, not yet.
I think we're going to talk about the wines in just
For the
a
wines
moment.
this evening,
We
we
find
have
the video,
a
so everyone just hold on,
red
take a
blend
look at
from
them.
Christopher
At home.
Michael, a Washington State wine. It's a blend of Merlot, Cabernet, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. Goes very well with food, very drinkable. Dark fruits, soft tannins with really a wonderful finish. I think you'll really enjoy it. And for the white tonight, it is the Portlandia Pinot Gris. This is a Wilmette Valley wine from Oregon. with dry aromas of citrus zest and lemon meringue. Really incredible minerality and a very smooth finish. I hope you enjoy them both.
It was fun to watch.
What did you like, Michelle?
All right, so our sponsors are always important to the event for the Arts Council. We want to take just a moment to recognize them. We have the Hershey Group, the Hamilton Family Foundation, Younger Toyota, Connie and George Manger, Old Town Title, Emmett and Marianne Burke, Robert and Jan Sorencione, Hub Labels, Jim Clauber, Abbott HCC, HPB, Ira and Carol Laurie, Robin and David Lyles, and of course some of these sponsors also chefs this evening: Meritus Health, Gay McGovern Insurance, Visit Hagerstown in Washington County, Pennsylvania Real Estate Investment Trust, and there are also many other donors in addition to the sponsors that I just read. They're all in your program brochure that you got in your goodie bag this evening, so be sure to check those out. From here, we are going to go ahead and dive into our first course appetizer, the bacon wrapped chicken bites, prepared by BJ and Sherry Getz. Let's take a look at the presentation.
Come to me.
Hi, I'm BJ Getz, and this is my wife Sherry. Today we are preparing a bacon wrapped chicken bites from her kitchen because I don't cook. The only real specialty around this dish is we have 4 daughters, and they're very picky eaters, and we don't have to worry about them fighting over this. So it works great for multiple occasions. You can do it as a full meal, or you can do it as appetizers anytime that you want. So,
All right.
it's on you.
Thank you. So like he said, if you want to use it, a lot of times we leave the tenderloins whole and just wrap a whole piece of bacon around them, and then we fix them that way. But as an appetizer, you would take your boneless and skinless chicken tenderloins, you would cut them into 1-inch pieces. You can cut the package of bacon into thirds, and then you would combine your barbecue sauce and your brown sugar in a bowl. You want to mix this up?
Sure.
You can do that.
Maybe.
And
I'm
then
more
you're
of a
going to
peanut
set
butter
that
and
to the
jelly guy.
side. And then you'll take your pieces of chicken. You just wrap the bacon around it, secure it with the toothpick, and then once
You normally don't let me do this, so, just to be clear.
once
I'm having chunk
once
issues.
that's mixed up, you would then brush each one with it, and a little, as generous as you can. You would then put them in the oven, bake them at 375 for about 10 minutes or so, and then try to flip them, put another layer, coat them again, bake them again, 10-15 minutes till they're finished. At the very end, if you broil them, they'll be crispier on top. So,
And that's a bacon wrap.
All right, so I have to say that BJ and Sherry were chefs the very first year that I was able to participate in 2018. So look in your program, and they are so much fun, and you'll be able to tell just by this picture of them in their bathing suit and bikini aprons. They were hilarious. So that's part of, you know, doing this during the pandemic, is we're all social distancing and doing this different this year. So we don't actually get to be with them, but we did get to try some of those delicious bacon wrapped chicken bites. I kept wanted to say scallops because that's what you usually think about. But Cindy, you said, well, you can bacon wrap anything, right?
Oh yeah, if you would bacon wrap this carpet, I would eat it. It was delicious. But they did a great job with that video. I had so much fun watching it, and we had the bacon wrapped chicken right before we rolled the camera, and it was phenomenal. And I think you were there when they made it.
Yeah, I was there and watching them do all of these videos, and they really are so much fun. The video, doesn't do it justice on how entertaining they were to watch putting it together. I can relate so much to the hearing someone in the kitchen say, "You don't let me do that because that's my kitchen."
All right, so from the appetizers now to the salad. The salad is a Boston lettuce salad prepared by David and Robin Lyles. We're going to take a look at the preparation for tonight's salad.
Take 6.
We introduce ourselves. Hi, we're the Lyles. We're Robin and David Lyles. We're so excited to be here tonight, and we are going to make a Boston lettuce salad. The ingredients are caramelized squash, which we're going to teach you guys how to make, caramelized Brussels sprouts, the apple cider vinaigrette, which has the salt and pepper and lemon juice and extra virgin olive oil, and some great garnishes. The goat
Garnishes,
cheese.
craisins, goat cheese, and we are going to use some pumpkin seeds as opposed to pine nuts.
So the first thing we're going to do to make this yummy Boston lettuce salad is we're going to learn how to cut a butternut squash. So Chef Todd says that you can cut it in half. We'll actually boil it first in some water for about 5 minutes because it'll soften it up and maybe help the skin not be so tight. You cut it and it kind of looks, nope, hold on, babe.
Sorry.
It looks like, it looks like a cantaloupe. So you need to scoop out the seeds, okay?
Cut
You
again.
can cut again. So again, if
This
it
one
were
was not boiled. It
softer,
was a little bit
it would be
different.
better. You take a vegetable peeler, just as you would think, like you do a potato or carrot, and peel it. Then we're gonna cut it into slices and then end
And
up
this is your finished
cutting
product.
it into cubes.
Which you would put in here to get ready for the mixture. Now the mixture starts with some brown sugar.
Want me to start?
You get a little a teaspoon of brown sugar. You have a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper.
So we're really just coating this, right?
Yep, and along with that, what you will do is you want to put some melted butter in, as we have right here, some melted butter. And the most important thing is, that he says, with clean hands, you must massage all of that together with your clean hands, and then you would put that on a baking sheet, a quarter piece apart, and you would bake that, and then spin it and take your spatula and pick it up and move it at least 4 or 5 times over the course you do that. You put it 400 degrees is the oven, is what we like to put it at.
And you're gonna wanna get it tender, so 45 to 50 minutes should do it, but it depends on your oven a little bit too, So what's next?
The next is the caramelized Brussels sprouts.
Okay. So they finish looking like this. Sorry about the hands. This is obviously not what
Do you have
anything's
clean
gonna
hands?
be. I do.
I don't.
So basically, we're gonna cut a Brussels in half, or, well, first you can cut the end off, right? It's a little tough, cut it in half. You just have 2 little pieces. So Davey, then what do you do?
Okay, at that given point in time, you are gonna melt some more butter in a pan. You're gonna add to that
Here.
with a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper here.
Now, are we mixing this in a pan like the other one then too, or are we just putting them right on a
No, you're gonna
baking
mix them
sheet?
in a pan too. And that's gonna be at 425, so it's just the salt and the pepper and a little bit of the butter right here. Then you mix this in a pan again, and then that itself will go on another sheet, cover with foil at 300, after you put it at 425 in the other till they're golden brown, and then you put in the oven until tender for 300. Makes
It
it
really
very
sounds like a lot, but it's not.
But
And
it's
all
not.
this recipe is in your booklet, so you'll be able to follow right along.
2 very easy steps to get those things done.
So then I'll go ahead and prep the lettuce. Of course, this nice Boston baby lettuce is so tender, but you can use iceberg, you can use romaine. Take out the core, cut this big head in half. Then you can probably just plate a half of head of lettuce per plate.
It's very good.
Okay.
Then, what we need to do,
Would we put this on, right?
well, no, hold on for a second, I make the vinaigrette.
Okay. Well, while he's doing the vinaigrette,
It's very easy. We have a half a cup of apple cider, which you start with. You have a teaspoon of honey.
uh-oh. Okay.
You have a cup of virgin olive oil, which is very good. And then you blend that. Oh, I forgot the lemon juice. Sorry. The lemon juice and the sea
I can
salt.
just whisk it, right?
You can whisk it.
whisk it?
Actually, you put it in a blender. You put that in a blender for 30 seconds. and
But
it
you
becomes
can
an-
whisk it too. As long as your honey is room temperature, you're gonna be just fine getting it all blended up. Right?
I'm not really sure about that.
Yes. We
But
do
that
Blue
sounds
Apron
great.
a lot, and that's what they always say.
Then what you do is you arrange your lettuce on a plate, which my lovely wife has done.
Okay.
And then what you will do is you're going to take that butternut squash that's finished, not this stuff that I did right here.
Caramelized butternut squash.
Yep, and you're going to
gonna
put
go
that
ahead and top it.
effectively right there. That almost looks like how Chef Todd does it.
By the way, this is his recipe, and it is so delicious that we couldn't come up with a better salad ourselves to go with the whole meal tonight.
Brussels sprouts.
So, Brussels.
Yeah. And you cannot forget the cran raisins. They're fantastic. That's what kids.
You don't have to do anything with those, just put them right in.
No, you just put cran raisins right in.
So you can
Fantastic,
put
I
as
like.
little or as much
I
of
like
the
cran raisins,
vegetables
so we're going to
in.
put a lot of cran raisins on that.
Okay.
Because it's delicious.
What else goes on?
Oh, you got to put the choice of nuts. We chose pumpkin seed because I like those. Delicious.
And it gives a really good texture, and
Or they could be pine
and
nuts.
it really
Pine
just
nuts,
looks
pumpkin
pretty. I
seed.
mean, look at that! Isn't
Really
that
nice.
beautiful?
The whole thing
Hungry.
right there. And then goat cheese. My wife loves Italian. She's a cheese person. Me not so much, but she loves the cheese. So you
I
just break
also
that
think
cheese
you
up.
can use boursin and I don't know, maybe blue. That might be a little sharp, but
I would
this
like the
is,
blue.
But this is sweet, the apple cider vinegar.
Did you put some on that?
Oh no, I did not, but I will. So you just dress it with as little as much as you want, and it's just a really nice, light, crisp salad before you get into your awesome
Main
meal.
meal. And that looks like something Chef Todd would absolutely not do. But we would do
ingredients
that
are
and we would
his.
eat that because that's perfect.
We're not real good at plating, but
No.
all the ingredients are there. And of course, you can salt and pepper to taste as well, which we always do at home. Right? Oh,
Yep.
yeah, that's for good luck.
Yeah.
Or to ward off after you see a black cat. Right? Aren't you supposed to throw
I
something
don't know
over
where
your
that
shoulder?
came from, but that's perfect.
Superstition.
And there you go. There is our fantastic salad. Enjoy.
Absolutely delicious. But I think what makes it so kind of fun to watch is the fun that you're having in the kitchen, you know, together making something like that. So, Cindy, why don't you get us started a little bit and talk about how you got into cooking?
How I got into cooking, it was survival. It was rank survival. My mother hated cooking. She was of that generation where like 1950s, 60s housewives wanted to break out of the kitchen, and so
Okay.
she would shoo me out. And so I needed to survive, and I got sick of fast food. I got sick of my husband's cooking, so I decided I better figure it out myself.
Well, that's a very good reason. In my house, my husband admittedly is the chef. I'm the one that cleans afterward. And Catherine, you said that's sort of the rule in your house too. Whoever cooks doesn't have to clean.
Yeah, so
That's
I
a
get out
great
of
rule.
I get out of dish duty like at least 5 nights a week, so I can't complain on
That's
that.
a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to talk more. Catherine, I want to ask you about how you got into cooking, but we're going to save that for a second. We're going to go to the main course as everyone wants to jump in, the beef Wellington. It was prepared by Jason and Melinda Malott. I see Melinda's baked goods that she posts on Facebook all the time. It's making me so hungry. All right, let's take a look at the preparation of tonight's main course.
Hi, I'm Jason Malott. This is my wife Melinda, and our main dish this evening is beef Wellington. Beef Wellington is popular in our house. It's for special occasions. We don't have it often, but it's one of my favorites and one of the first things that she made for me when we first started dating. Her inspiration is Ina Garten, and as you can see here, this is her cookbook. My wife has these great plans for cooking for Jason, which she's done for the last 20 plus years, and you will find this recipe you will not go wrong with. So I'll turn it over to Melinda.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to cook for Jason. Okay, so as he said, beef Wellington is one of our special occasion meals. What I like about the recipe is there's a lot of make-ahead components to it. So one of the first make-ahead components is the pate. So this is a chicken liver pate. I take 1.5 pounds of chicken livers, divide it into thirds. We mix it with cream. We mix it with pistachios, an egg. We have salt, pepper, nutmeg. We have some port wine. And we mix that all in a blender, and I roast it in a loaf pan covered with salt pork. And it's very low temperature, cook it for a while. And then that can be refrigerated, and that is actually a wonderful appetizer. Like, we always have too much for the beef Wellington, and so we can keep that for weeks, and it's wonderful on little toast points. The next component that I'm going to tell you about is the Duxelles, which is a fancy name, but basically all it is mushrooms that have been chopped very fine and squeeze the living guts out of it. Squeeze all the water out of it that you can, and then combine with shallots and olive oil and butter, and we just, after we saute that, reduce it down, get all the liquid out, we set that aside and let it cool. I can do that, a couple days ahead of time, and that can be in the refrigerator. The next component that we'll talk about is our beef. And so I get a whole beef tenderloin, and when we go to the butcher, we ask for it trim, and I tell them, I'm going to make beef Wellington. And so we roast the whole tenderloin about 425 degrees for about 10 minutes, let it cool, and then we're going to wrap our package up. And so what we do is we take puff pastry.
This is the fun part.
And I don't make my own puff pastry. Pepperidge Farm does an amazing job at puff pastry. There's no need to do that. So Mr. Malott retrieves all my ingredients. He has to run all the errands, pick up all the...
And I take pictures to make sure I get the right thing.
We virtual shop all the time, but he always gets it right, most of the time. Most of the time.
Glad that's on film.
So we take our puff pastry, and I'm going to take and spread it with the Duxelles, which is the mushroom mixture. And just spread that on here.
This is so good.
It is good. It is really good.
The combination is just really good.
And it sounds complicated, it sounds fancy, but really, if you break it down in these steps, it's very manageable. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to coat our beef Wellington in the pate. I'm going to set this aside. And normally I use my hands, so I'm just going to do that. It's probably not kosher, probably not COVID appropriate, but at home this is what I do. I just smear it all over the pate. I am generous with the pate. The recipe that is in the booklet is makes a lot, like a big loaf pan. You do not need that for your whole tenderloin, so you'll have extra, but again, I am very generous with it.
It's good on crackers if you have some left over.
Very good. All right, next we are going to wrap our Wellington. So I'm just going to set my tenderloin right down here in the center. Yeah, and I have an egg wash here, which is basically an egg and a tablespoon of water. This is what's going to seal it. It's our glue to bring together the beef Wellington. I'm going to have some extra puff pastry here, so I'm going to maybe trim that off a little bit. So I'm going to use that for decoration. We always decorate our Wellington. My new favorite thing is decorating my food with cookie cutters. I do all kinds of pie decorations with cookie cutters, the top of my beef Wellington. All right, I'm just going to wrap it up, It's pretty easy. And use your egg wash, and maybe a professional chef would use a brush, but I'm not a professional chef, although I pretend to be sometimes. And we're going to bring this up here. Again, seal it. Then we're gonna wrap our ends in, seal them, wrap them in, make a nice package. Fold this under. This is the top of our Wellington. All right, so to decorate it, I'm gonna take, let's see, I have some leaf cookie cutters. I can just, make a couple of leaves. And again, I'm gonna use my egg wash as a glue. So I can put that. Maybe this is a little bit smaller leaf. Puff pastry cuts easier as it's, the colder it is, as it gets warmer, it gets sticky. So we can make a little doodah there. Valentine's Day's coming up. If you feel inspired, you can put a little heart on your beef Wellington.
So maybe I'll get this for Valentine's Day.
Maybe. All right, and then we're just going to, we would brush this whole thing in egg wash. I can use my fingers. I don't have a brush at my fingertips, but we're just gonna. And this egg wash just makes it sort of like, makes it shiny, makes it evenly brown, and just makes a beautiful presentation on the table. And
it does.
And so that is our beef wrapped up in puff pastry to make a beautiful beef Wellington, and that's our wrap.
I think when I see that, I think made with love. Like, that really is what kind of pops in my head watching Melinda, and just how she arranged it so perfectly. So, Catherine, I'll start with you. Some thoughts on the beef Wellington.
Oh, it was really good. I make one myself, and I was telling you guys I do Dijon mustard and I use prosciutto. So this was my first time having it where it had the pate, and there were no leftovers.
I think that was the general consensus across the board. Cindy, thoughts?
Fantastic, magnificent. I want her cookbook when it comes out.
I'm excited about it. I love to see all the things that she bakes and does, and everything just looks very made with love, I think.
Yes. Well, she's so talented. I mean, you saw what she did with the extra puff pastry, and the decorations that she made and everything. I mean, that's just that extra flourish. The
presentation is
the
just so
pres-
nice.
Yes.
The art.
And the results were so delicious. I mean, that beef just melted in your mouth. It was fabulous.
All right. So, Catherine, I asked Cindy a little bit earlier of how she got into liking to cook, and she said survival necessary to do. How about you?
Stubbornness.
Okay.
I came from a house where when I grew up, it either had a pop the top, a can,
Okay.
a cream of probably nothing edible. Sodium was our best friend.
Gotcha.
So naturally you become an adult and so forth. That's how it turns out, until I got married and I burned taco shells because I decided to use a toaster oven. I was like, there's two of us. I can put it in the toaster oven. There were flames, and I didn't live it down for like 2 years.
That's pretty impressive.
It
I
was.
feel like takes almost
It was really
skill
good talent.
to do that.
Yeah, so I couldn't live it down, and I got tired of being picked on for the fact I burned taco shells because I didn't read the instructions. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
So how long, well, you don't have to say how long ago that was if you don't want, but since your
Couple decades.
Okay, so you've had a while to perfect your skill in the kitchen.
Yeah, so that was where it just kind of started. It was like, all right, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna now he eats his words deliciously because
good. See,
leftovers go to work, and his coworkers are sitting there going, you can just throw some other containers in there and bring. It's okay.
That's when you know.
Yeah.
That's when you know.
Oh, yeah.
That was good dinner.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to head now to, we finished dinner, so we're going to head to dessert. The unbaked cranberry cake prepared by Corey and Jessica Green. We're going to check out their preparation.
Good evening, my name is Corey Green. This is my wife Jessica Green. we're making her family's no-bake cranberry cake, and I'll let Jessica explain to you the importance of it from her family.
So this is a super simple cake. Again, no bake. Don't be afraid that it's made with Nabisco brand name vanilla wafers, because nobody's going to know, and everybody thinks it's delicious that's tried it. So if you want to start on the base layer, I'll talk about the history of the cake.
Are you going to be able to hear me over the, well, I guess we go.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
perfect.
Base layer is vanilla wafers. You can buy mini or large, doesn't matter, and melted butter. You can also add some sugar, but I'm going to be honest, in all 3 layers, I do not add the sugar, and my family still loves it. So do what's right for your household. Melted butter.
In there?
Yep.
I've never helped before.
This is a super quick cake. I literally can make it in 20 minutes at this point. I do put it in the fridge for an hour or so afterwards.
We've got about
or
12,
sometimes
so.
I don't, so if I want to eat it that quickly. Anyway, this is my mom's recipe. Those of you that know my mom know that she is not a cook and definitely not a baker. And she comes from a line of that type of female. So my brothers and I ate a lot of cold dinners growing up, and so we were always thrilled to go to friends' houses.
Your mom's not coming to this, is she?
I don't know.
Okay, let's hope not.
She made dinners with a lot of love, but just not a lot of talent in the kitchen.
She got it honest from your
But
grandmother.
this cake is my all-time favorite recipe
Is that
that she
enough?
makes, maybe a little bit more. You want it to be totally, I don't know, totally crumbly and creamy
I think I
from
broke
the
this thing.
butter.
We may not get it. Keep
All
talking.
right, well,
I'll break it.
anyway. So when I was in college, my birthday's in the winter, and my mom had this cake. She made it. She packed it in dry ice and paid $60 to ship it to me in college. That's how good it is. It's worth it. It's all right. Let's dump it in.
No, I'm going to figure it
Very
out.
forgiving.
One more second.
Okay. I think it's going to be hard to put that centerpiece back in, but
Well, it's not locking.
yeah. This once you get the contents underneath that centerpiece, I don't think it's going to
I got it.
Okay.
We're home free. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. We're not.
Well, here, do you want me to dump them out and dump them back in? Or you
No,
good?
I want you to dump it in.
One more time. Aha! Resistance. Yeah. Yep. Oh, this was a little quick. Okay, we ready?
Yes. All right, so dump in your base layer. Any pan will do, because again, you're not going to cook it, so
Oh, it smells good.
yeah, select the prettiest pan. Here, use this. Okay, or use your fingers.
Nobody's eating it. Actually, we're going to take this one upstairs with us and have it for dinner.
Yeah.
Chef Todd just doesn't know yet. Spatula would probably be better to take it out.
Yes, use a spatula.
I wash my hands.
And just kind of pat it down with the spatula so the butter can firm up your base layer crust. And we'll move right on to the second out of 3 layers. This one's going to be cranberries, frozen or defrosted, granulated sugar, and bananas. And again, toss them all into your favorite kitchen device.
I mean, everybody doesn't have a Rosie.
And it should look like a smoothie bowl or a thick smoothie that you drink.
You don't put
When it
sugar in
comes out.
smoothies. Which sugar?
Yeah.
Do you want all that sugar in there?
Maybe do half.
Maybe do half.
Yeah.
Okay. Not quite half.
That was a good half.
All right, you ready?
We're ready.
Yep.
so famous in my family that everyone requests it from my mom, and I requested it in college, and she actually packed it in dry ice and paid $60 to ship it to my college dorm room, which I greatly appreciated. And Corey
I can't
had
even figure out how to run it. Oh, there we
Chef
go.
Dawn make this cake last year for my birthday at the club and bring it out to our table of friends, and she did a fabulous job. Of course she did.
Well,
She's
Chef
pastry
Dawn.
chef, yes. But everybody in the dining room that night got a piece and loved it. And there's one gentleman that still calls me and asks me for the recipe.
I personally like her carrot cake better.
I like her carrot.
Or her coconut cream pie.
Anything Dawn makes is
A
good.
little more my speed. Oh, it does look like a smoothie.
Yeah. Then you did a good job.
No, that doesn't happen very often. I can't use my hands on this part.
I know, you're just gonna have to, yeah. So, you'll spread out this second layer.
Alright. So, hopefully at home you have a spatula. Apparently we're using a
And
banana
enough,
peel.
and enough of your second layer to cover, because this should be the thickest layer.
That pan's a little bigger than what we
Yeah,
use at
it
home.
is, yeah. And then you're on to your third layer, which is basically heavy whipping cream. I use vanilla, and if you want to add sugar to this layer, you're welcome to.
How much?
Just a dollop.
Some dollops are bigger than others. Okay.
That side.
Well, that's kind of complicated.
There you go.
Yeah, you do. Wow. Do we need it faster?
You should quit construction and become a chef.
Yeah, everybody had food poisoning. We're definitely going to need it faster.
All right. Since we've already prepared the whipped cream, I don't want to overdo it.
Did you want any sugar in there?
Well, it's already prepared.
It's already prepared.
There you go.
Okay.
And again, spread your top layer.
Ooh, this
I
is
like
nice.
a lot of whipped cream, so I make this layer thick as well.
Do you think Fountainhead will mind if their pan disappears? We can bring it back. Usually when this gets sent to our house, Jessica hides it and doesn't let anybody else eat it.
Or I request that my mother makes two cakes, one for me, one for everybody else. And my favorite
I'm never
time,
gonna do that,
all
right? You
right,
go
my
ahead.
favorite, my favorite time to eat this cake is with a cup of coffee in the morning. The best desserts can be eaten for breakfast and dessert, in my opinion.
Well, you can take this home and tomorrow morning for breakfast with
Yeah.
your coffee.
Yeah,
You can have it.
I'm not doing a very good job either. I think you would have been fine, but
I'm not going to criticize how you did it.
they're gonna get the point.
Let's hope.
And if you want to start sprinkling the walnuts, you can use chopped walnuts. You can forgo the walnuts. You can.
Can I put half and half since I don't like
Yeah.
walnuts? All right, perfect. So we'll do walnuts on
Just
half.
add some crunch to an otherwise kind of soft cake.
Some texture.
Yeah. This is a cake that travels well. Again, I've said it 5 times, I think, very forgiving. Keep it in the fridge. Don't bake it. It's ready to go right now, but it will set up in the fridge so you can actually cut square pieces like lasagna.
Yeah, it's
if
much.
you let it set
it's
up.
much better if you make it the day before, let it cool, and prepare. And we hope everybody enjoys our dessert. And thank you very much. And sorry we couldn't all be together. So thank you.
So something good about being able to take all of those delicious items home with you. Maybe you got full of the beef Wellington perhaps, and you still have your dessert. As Jessica said, you can have it in the morning with a cup of coffee. That sounds great.
Yes.
That sounds wonderful. So ladies, thoughts on the dessert?
It was,
Yum.
yeah, yum. Exactly. Fabulous. Fabulous. And, you know, dessert is my favorite part of the meal, I'll be honest. And I just love this video. I love how they work together. I love how they support each other. And I love how I love the story she told about her mom spending $60 to mail it to her when she was in college. I mean, that is love. Food is love.
It really is. And Catherine, you said, were you there when they shot this?
Yes.
And you noticed something
So-
in the video that maybe everyone at home
Yes,
didn't.
there's a framed portion in the one corner. It's the recipe that
Okay.
she had brought with her that's framed, that's got mom's, recipe written out and stuff, which I thought was just really sweet. Those are the near and dear ones that you always just continue on type deal, which is, the other good thing about food. It's just that those happy memories. So.
Absolutely. All right, so tell me about your favorite desserts to make.
Well, I made a creme de cassis chocolate cake.
All right, for everyone else like me, break down what that means.
Well, you've heard of rum cake.
Yes, of course.
This is a creme de cassis is a liqueur that's made out of black currants.
Okay.
And we have a black currant bush in our yard. And I actually make my own creme de cassis, but you can go out and get it yourself. It's readily available in any liquor store. And I made a chocolate cake, and instead of using rum, I used creme de cassis. So this wonderful berry flavor soaked through the chocolate cake. And then I made kind of a glaze for on top of it.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Catherine.
I don't bake. I don't. You have to be accurate with baking.
That's very true.
And you have to measure precise. And I am totally a dash, dab, looks good type cook.
Okay.
Eyeball those measurements, which cooking's forgiving, baking no. So I phone in my grandmother, and she is currently teaching my daughter her baking skills
That's probably
that
the
I
best
didn't get.
person to call when you need to phone in, right?
Oh yeah, and she lives right down the road from me, so
Even better.
Nana, I want red velvet cake or sourdough cookies or my other I beg her for, and
She's on it. Great.
every time she's making them, Riley, pack your stuff. You're going to Nana's.
And then she brings the recipe back.
She brings the recipe pack, and I figured she's only 15, so I'm gaining way more years of this dessert getting made for me.
That's a
by
great
teaching
plan.
that. So
That is a great plan.
But you can always fall back on what we just saw, because that's a no-bake
Yes.
dessert.
See, now those
Oh,
I could do
yes.
that.
You see?
All right.
That type I can do.
There you go.
All right, we're going to thank our wonderful sponsors for this evening as we go and check those out. We're going to start with the Hershey Group. We also have Jim and Georgia Pearney, Middletown Valley Bank, James and Mary Schurz for the foundation. Flipping over to our next slide, Innovative Inc., Grow Enterprises, and the Joan Bowman Foundation. Hershey Group, as I mentioned earlier, that was the first on my list. The Hamilton Family Foundation, Younger Toyota, Connie and George Manger as well. Old Town Title, Emmett and Marianne Burke, Robert and Jan Servencion. Hub Labels, Jim Clover with HCC. And we also have HPB Inc., Ira and Carol Laurie and David and Robin Lyles. So we also have a lot more in our book if you want to check those out. And ladies, now we're going to go, I believe, to our Q&A section for anyone who is watching at home. You can send us questions and we will go ahead and discuss them. But let's just start off with the two of you, why you enjoy the culinary arts. I mean, we've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout the evening, but what is something that I have to admit, as I said earlier, I'm not the cook in my house. My husband is the cook, and I am happy to let him do that. He says the same thing my grandmother always said about cooking. She was a great cook. He likes to cook because he likes to eat. And I think that's exactly what she said, and she was a wonderful cook. So I think that's sort of, something that brings us all together, right? But what do you enjoy? Cindy, I'll start with you with culinary arts.
Okay. Well, I think the journey to being a good home chef is to have no fear.
Okay.
Have absolutely no fear. I think what holds a lot of people back is the fear of failure, or they just, no one ever taught them, or they're not quite sure how to go about it, fear of disappointment. Throw all that out the window. Julia Child is my spirit animal. And
Okay.
she was wonderful because, you know, in the middle of her show, if she'd flip a pancake and half of it would fall on the floor, that's fine. What happens in the kitchen stays in the kitchen, on the kitchen floor. No one will know. You know, just cover it up and keep going. And so, yeah, it's like I said when we started the broadcast tonight, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because my mother hated to cook, never taught me how to cook, but the nuns at St. Mary's said, follow the directions. And the recipes these days are written so well that if you just get it and follow the directions, you can have a really good outcome.
Catherine?
Well, I've always had a love of the arts.
Okay.
Grew up with ballet and being in art, you know, drawing, painting. So like this to me is an extension of it, that I get to make art on a plate, and so that's been one of the pieces that's connected it for me. But yes, like you said, I mean, it's so I made blackened tacos and people ate them. I mean, my dogs think I'm a superstar when I'm cooking because they have lots of stuff ends up on the floor in my house, and there's usually 2 German Shepherds and a cat sitting there and fighting over who gets what. But the cool part for me has also been I had health challenges early on, so I couldn't travel as much. So this has been my way to give my kids a chance to travel and learn about other places.
Okay.
With making them Asian-inspired dishes or our Irish background and all of those. I tell them, like, we're doing passports using forks. So
That's awesome. I love that.
And I love just giving that to them.
All right. Let's see what other questions we have to talk to you ladies about. Where do you find inspiration for your daily meals? I mentioned earlier to both of you that I know one of my troubles when I'm trying to think about what to have for dinner is I have like a loop of 4 or 5 things that I kind of go around with, but I just run out of ideas. So what brings you inspiration?
Well, I get inspiration from, well, the traditional cooking shows and magazines that I get, things that I get hungry for, you know, but I love movies, and I love foodie movies.
Ooh.
And I don't know if you guys saw Julie and Julia, but with Julia Child. After I watched this, can I tell my story? I have a funny story.
I like the story.
Yeah, after I watched it, I got inspired to make Julia Child's beef bourguignon, you know, which is the beef burgundy. It's a stew, and you take beef and you pour a lot of wine into it, drink a little yourself, and you cook the beef for like 10 years in red wine. And I used my last bottle of wine, so I figured, well, this is slow cooking. I can pop out to the liquor store, the wine shop, and get another bottle of wine for the table. So off I went, and I went into my local wine shop, and there's this wonderful, jovial gentleman behind the counter with this darling New Jersey accent, and self-expression's not a problem for him either. You know, so I walk up, I put my wine on the counter, and he's like, "Hello, ma'am." "Man, wow, is that you?" And I said, "Oh my, yes, it's me." I said, "I'm making Julia Child's beef bourguignon." He goes, "Oh man, you smell good. Guys, come here, smell this lady." And these men walk over, and I'm like, oh goodness, you know. So I was good-natured about it, and they were gentlemen. They were as gentlemanly as you can be when when you go up sniffing a woman and you've never met in a liquor store, you know. And so I went home and was very proud of my endeavors, and all my friends then after that, I said, if you want to, meet people, forget online dating, all you have to do is cook Julia Child's beef bourguignon and go to the liquor store.
There you have it.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. We're solving all these problems tonight.
Food brings you together. Food is love.
Yes. All right. Thoughts?
I mean, yes. I can relate on the, not as like romantically. I know there was a couple times going to like dance class that was later in the evening, and I cooked beforehand and walk in, they'd be like, "Who had Chinese food before we came?" And I'm like, yeah, so I didn't have as romantic, but you know, I've heard of like the engagement chicken recipe where you do like a certain roasted chicken and they swear it's the thing that gets you an engagement ring.
I've not
because
heard of this. Wow.
yes, there's like it's like this whole urban legend on this magical chicken recipe that gets you an engagement ring. So food is definitely love.
Maybe we'll have that on next year.
There we go.
So love is your inspiration for cooking.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's appropriate. Valentine's Day is coming up,
There you
so anyone who's looking, for an engagement ring, Catherine's got the chicken.
Yeah, you just Google engagement chicken and it pops up, and it's a simple recipe. So.
All right. So Cindy mentioned wines. Talk about your favorite adult beverage with meals.
Well, I like wine. That is one of my favorite adult beverages. I love champagne. I love the bubbles. You know, I'm surprised at how I've gone to several tastings, you know, that some of the local restaurants have had. They have wine and beer matched with certain food, and I always thought that was just, you know, a reason to drink and eat. Mm-hmm. Not true. I went to one of these tastings and I tried the beer, and it was really hoppy, really bitter, and I'm like a nose wrinkler for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no. And they said, no, try the bacon wrapped oysters with that. So I said, sure. And I tried it. I tried the beer, and the beer tasted completely different to me. So I was shocked. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to one of the local restaurants when they're having the wine and beer pairings with the meal, do it. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So, you know, really the adult beverage now for me changes depending on what I'm having.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we do a lot of pairings in our house. We're big supporters of buying local, so getting like the local breweries, the local wineries, and trying to figure out what pairs with what and what notes are in there.
Do you like to do that yourself, or do you ask them? Like, what do they suggest?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Just depends. Like, I've made friends with some of the local brewery owners and asked them like what matches up well and stuff like that. But if I'm having something where it's just like to enjoy the beverage, give me a cannot see through the glass stout beer any day, and I am a happy woman.
Or you kind of have to chew it.
Yes, like that's my meal right there.
That's my thing, is I always get full too quickly if I do that.
Well,
all right.
oatmeal stout's the perfect breakfast beverage.
Yes, there's some coffee ones too.
You can have it with your dessert in the morning.
There you go.
It yet. I don't know how you haven't eaten a dessert yet. So, what about quick meal options?
Quick meal options, you know, I with a little bit of planning, it's surprising how you can pull together a really delicious gourmet meal without spending hours and hours and hours and hours in the kitchen.
Okay.
You know,
that's me.
Well, for example, I found a recipe that, again, we were talking, I think, off mic or off camera about how some of the recipes you read and the ingredients, you're like, meh, big deal. And then you make it and it's like, wow, this is incredible. And I found a Turkish recipe that takes cranberry beans, which are also called Roman beans, with carrot and onion and a little bit of olive oil and water and some pepper. Doesn't sound that inspiring, but I put it together and it was phenomenal.
Are they sweet? The cranberry beans?
Or is there like a zing? Like, is it just the coloring that gives them the name?
It's just the coloring that gives them the name. They're very seasonal, and I found a can of them at the stores. So, you know, that's a kitchen hack. You know, I use the can. I didn't soak them overnight or anything. But, you know, if you look at them, they're kind of a white bean with this red veining through them, and they're delicious. But they taste like a bean, like a white bean. Somehow the medley of those tastes fit together in a way that is very unexpected. It took 20 minutes to put together, and it tasted very gourmet. And I take no credit for it. I credit whoever came up with that recipe.
Catherine, you come home from work, don't have anything planned, you need something in a hurry, do you have a go-to quick meal?
Say for us, we've got a couple. One of them is making the egg roll in a bowl.
Okay.
So it's just like ground meat. Usually we do pork, and you're sauteing. I get like a bag of just coleslaw mix. So all that the cabbage is shredded, the carrots are in there. You saute those up. You throw the meat in with there. You have a little bit of seasoning, and
do you put sauce in it? What kind of sauce do you use?
Soy sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce, and hoisin, just so you get a little bit of that sweet, salty, and just all around goodness. Throw an egg on there if you want. I mean,
sounds easy. Sounds
super
delicious.
simple. Kids make it, so
even better.
Yes. So it's one of those nights I haven't planned, and I don't feel like cooking.
There you go.
There you go, guys.
So then, if they cook, how do you decide who cleans?
There's 2 kids, so you know I still have a backup on duty.
Oh,
And a
I
dog.
gotcha.
And a
Okay.
dog.
And dogs.
And the dog.
Yeah, just
But we don't tell Nana that I do that because Nana says she won't eat at the house anymore if she knows the dogs lick the utensils. I wash them after, but
what happens in the kitchen stays in the kitchen.
that's why I chase people out of my kitchen when cooking.
Exactly.
All right, our next question is, what is your favorite meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner. Just like that nice wrap up end of the day because I probably forgot about breakfast and lunch.
Well, it's also, I think for most people, it's kind of when you actually get to eat together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Sit down. That's one of the rules. We sit down and we eat dinner like round the table as a family as much as possible.
It's a great rule to have.
Yes, I mean even like my daughter's working right now, and if she's not off till 7, we're not eating till after 7.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I try to do that as much as I can. Just to, sounds cheesy, but I love it.
No, it's great.
So,
Cindy, do you have a favorite?
I do. I like lunch, especially now that I'm working at home more. But on Saturdays, 3 seasons out of the year, I do lunch for a group of our friends. We call ourselves the Lunch Bunch.
Okay.
And I have an old house in the north end, and I have a brick and stone barbecue in the back with a Rumford chimney and this beautiful arch. I mean, you can melt a Buick in this thing. It is built, right? Yes. So I invite them all over to my backyard and cook for them. And we're the Lunch Bunch.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take that to our next question because the next question is, what's your favorite meal for that favorite, or favorite recipe for that favorite meal? So what do you like to cook for your lunch bunch?
Wow, that's when I really try to vary it and cook a lot of different things. But the one thing that I did, and it wasn't on the barbecue, that got the most favorable response was broasted chicken. And if you are born and raised in Hagerstown and you're of a certain age,
it's not the engagement chicken, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's not the engagement chicken. It's broasted chicken. There used to be a restaurant on the Dual Highway called Jim's Always.
Okay.
And my mom hated to cook, as I've said, and we went out to eat a lot. And Jim's Always fed me throughout my childhood. And they had broasted chicken. And it's not fried chicken, and it's not baked chicken. And people will say, well, what is it? Make a long story short, you just bread the chicken, you put it in a special pressure cooker that can pressure fry it in oil. And I use peanut oil. And that's broasting. And there's nothing quite like it. It really seals in the chicken so that it's moist and tender and the outside is crispy. And when Jim's Always closed, I cried. And I found some restaurants that made broasted chicken, and I don't know why, but whenever I find a restaurant that I really like and they have broasted chicken, I start to go there, they close. So I'm the kiss of death. I don't know what it was. It something I said, but they'll close. So I figured out how to do it at home, and I got the pressure cooker direct from Germany.
Wow.
And didn't use it for 20 years because my mother-in-law told me this horror story of them exploding and everything.
Right.
But this thing's built like a submarine. I mean, it locks into place, and there's a big thing that you tighten it up with. And when I make this broasted chicken, people love it. The Lunch Bunch loves it. They request it. I made some extras so one of my friends could take it to her parents. They loved it. And I'm so happy that I figured out how to, it took me 20 years, but I figured out.
Say, this is quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, I figured out how to make this broasted chicken.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Chicken? No?
Burgers.
Burgers. Okay.
Burgers. We're a burger bunch. I mean, that's if I'm gonna make something that I know I'm not gonna get any fuss out of the kids or anyone coming over. Burgers, just big old juicy burgers, and it just depends. We play with all different kinds of toppings.
I was gonna say, is there a certain topping that everyone likes? Or
there must be toasted brioche buns.
Okay, so there are some rules here.
The kids are bougie. It's the kids' fault. It's not mine.
Okay.
So.
They're not here, so we can blame them, right?
If they were, I'd still. It is. It's if I say burgers, they're like, there's not buns. I'm like, I'm going grocery shopping. There will be buns. Like, it's a must
Do
in
you
the
have a
house.
particular kind of cheese that you like on your burgers?
Again, it depends on what we're playing with here for like what recipe. If I'm doing like something a Southwest style, I'll get some kind of smoked cheese or, yeah, we've done beer cheese on there for some.
Beer cheese sounds good too.
There's some Asian flavored ones I've done where you dip the burger in sauce and get a good glaze on it. I mean,
So I think we've talked about like what other people like, but what do the both of you like to cook? That's another question. I'm not coming up with it.
the weirder the better.
Okay.
I like trying something different.
Well, you said you like to make all different kinds of international sort of recipes and
we
things
do
like that.
we do all different kinds. There's very little repeated in our house. So.
I think the pandemic is a good time to be able to do that because you feel when you said you're learning about different countries or you feel like you can't really go on vacation or go away for a long time that you might want to. The recipes are a way to food's a way to do that.
Yes. Yep.
It is. The one thing I made that I've made a couple times since, and I really enjoy doing it, and it's an endeavor. It's not difficult. It just takes a lot of time. Is a timpano.
Okay.
And again, back to foodie movies being my inspiration. Have you seen The Big Night with Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub? A pair of Italian brothers that own a restaurant, and they make this feast as kind of a marketing tactic. A timpano is called that because it looks like a timpani drum, and it's a big pasta dome. And you make the crust, and as Tony Shalhoub says in the movie, it has everything good in it that makes life worth living. So they have there's a layer of ziti pasta with homemade sauce, then a layer of cubed cheese, a layer of Genoa salami, a layer of more cheese, hard-boiled egg.
Oh my! Kitchen sink.
Yeah,
this
more
is something
cheese.
you're napping after this, is what it sounds like.
Yes, it's not health food, but you just layer it up, and then you close the dough, and you put it in the oven and bake it. Bring it out, turn it over, and slice it like a layer cake, and it's a real presentation dish. And my friend Kevin and I made it at his house for Valentine's Day, since Valentine's Day is coming up. And we had a little party and made it. And when we left, I told Kevin he could keep the leftovers. And my husband complained the whole way home that there were no leftovers. So I said, and this is the stay out of the kitchen rule. I said, well, that's okay. I'll make you your own timpano for Valentine's Day. I have a little pot at home. So I did it. Now, Kevin had made the dough, and I was not born with the dough gene. So I started trying to make this dough. I mean, talk about classic fails. Okay. So, how difficult can it be? It's just water, and it's just, flour. It crumbled. It was like sand. So I'm like, okay, add more water. I did. Then it turned into the blob, and it engulfed the rolling pin. I'm like, where's my rolling pin? So I dig it out. I put in more flour. And it turned into sand again. Then the blob, then sand. I was so frustrated. Now, usually, when my husband walks into the...
That's me. I just keep adding more stuff, hoping that it's going to eventually look how it's
become something.
Exactly. I had flour on the floor, on the counter, on my clothes.
On your forehead from...
In my clothes, on the ceiling. How it got there, I don't know. And usually, if my husband walks in the kitchen, we have a very small north end kitchen, and I love it because everything's in reach. But if anyone else is in there, they're automatically in my way. And I'll say get out, and he'll say no, and we'll have some pretty spirited discussion. Well, for that, he walked in the middle of this, and I must have given him a look. He stopped dead in his tracks, turned around, and walked out. And I've been trying to replicate that look ever since then. I haven't been able to, but no. I learned to just go get Kevin to make the dough or buy some dough and make the timpano.
So that's what I do is you gotta buy the dough.
Yeah.
That's quite a story.
Thank you. So again, no fear. Just get in there and do it.
All right.
Nice.
Catherine.
I haven't done that. I mean, I've scared my mother-in-law. She likes to show up early when we have like birthday cookouts and everything, and she'll come in the kitchen. She wants to sit there and talk while I'm prepping. And chat. And at one point, my husband came in the one time and just kind of escorted her out. He goes, "This is the room with the knives, and we're not having an incident today." It's like, because he could see my face was saying no. He's like, he had to explain to her, the rule is we just stay out of the kitchen. We don't know how the things get made. The things just show on the table, and it's like a wand. It makes him happy. So
I know on Thanksgiving, my family would come over, my aunt, my uncle, my mom, everybody. They get together, and that it's hilarious because they will all end up in the kitchen because for some reason they all want to talk to me, and I'm scooting one out, and another one will sneak in. I'll scoot my uncle out, my aunt will come in. I'll scoot, my mom will come in, and I just can't keep them out of the kitchen. And so, that's what we should really come up with, or strategies to keep them out of the kitchen.
I have 2 dogs now.
There you go.
They help herd out of there. They know. Because then they know they can't get anything dropped for them and fed because they're not supposed to have people food. But people food, if nobody sees it, didn't happen. So they will start nudging.
They have their own kitchen strategy.
They have learned. We've got them trained.
Very smart.
That's it. I need 2 more dogs.
There
That's
you
what
go.
I need.
You get big ones.
Yeah, to clean the dishes and keep people out of the kitchen.
There you go.
Have it. Yeah, and then if they're big enough, they're just in the way, so no one can get around them. They just block the entrance.
So there you go.
So we do have a question from our live audience. It is, do you use gadgets like an air fryer, an Instapot, or a slow cooker? And then we're going to go to another question after that, which is, what are your favorite out-of-town restaurants? So first of all, kitchen gadgets, which, I don't know, would you call an air fryer? Like, to me, a gadget is can opener or something like that. But let's talk about Instapot, air fryer, those kind of things.
Well, I already mentioned the broaster from Germany that I
right.
got.
And I feel like that's a really, really cool one.
Yeah. I use specific tools, if you will. Like a carpenter would have his favorite hammer. I have my favorite whisk. I have my favorite spoon. I have my favorite things like that.
Are they things that you've had for a long time?
Yes, and some of them were my grandmother's, and I have my favorite pot. But when it comes to gadgets, as I said, I have kind of a small kitchen, so I don't have room on the counter for a lot of stuff.
Right.
And most of the stuff, a lot of the gadgets out there are really cool, but I found that my friends that have gotten them use them once and then they end up in the basement. So to be honest, I just kind of stick with the basics, or if I get a gadget, like I have a blender, I have a mixer, I have a food processor, and I have my tools, and I have my broaster, and that's about it.
We fell victim to the buying a air fryer in the pandemic. But for me, when I get a gadget, it has to be multi-use in order to take up space in the kitchen.
That's a good philosophy.
So I got that 13-in-1 big, flipped up out the way oven one. I've got the Instapot, but it's also a slow cooker that it does double duty. But the funny part, like you said, they sit. They don't get used as much. My big go-tos are my Dutch oven and my cast iron. And my electric smoker. That was my Mother's Day present. I got an electric smoker, and that's my BFF.
That's nice.
Except the kids don't like smoked stuff, so they eat lots of smoked stuff anyways, because they don't cook it.
All right, so the other question was, out-of-town restaurants.
Your House and Roy Pitts in Chambersburg. So not far out of town, but far enough. Both of them breweries, but they have amazing chefs in there that I actually have joked. The previous chef at Gear House, I used to joke with my husband, tell him, I'm like, if I leave you for someone, it's him. Just so you know, that's your competition.
Yeah.
Because the man can cook. So.
Wow. Mine is Bay City Seafood. And it's where my aunt and uncle would always take us when we would visit them. And it's in Hanover. And they have a seafood platter there that is unequaled. I mean, you would have to go to probably New Orleans, Louisiana to get a seafood platter like this.
Nice.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
I'm making a road trip.
Yeah. It's worth the road trip.
How about this? Do you remember the Spot?
That's a wonderful, legendary, mythical place.
Is it real?
It was real.
I've never heard of this.
Tell us about the Spot. And then also, what did you eat there? Did you have a favorite meal?
I have never been to this spot.
Okay.
And by the time I learned about it,
Is it in Hagerstown?
it was.
Oh,
I
it
think
was?
it was out Route 40, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And it's almost, from the way it was described to me, it was almost in someone's house, or it was something built onto their house. And you would go in, and it was very informal, so much so that sometimes the cutlery didn't match, but they had the best food, I'm told.
Huh.
And when I found out about it,
Like 40 towards Clear Spring?
I think the other way toward Frederick, I believe.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But this is one of those mythical places that's just handed down like a fairy tale, you know. And I said, I've got to go to this place, and it had already closed. And that's one regret in my culinary life, that I was never able to go to this spot.
I really wish that I could have. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Just to have experienced that.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is: do you have any recipes that are on a regular rotation at your home? Catherine, I know you talked about your egg roll bowl. Is that what you called it?
Yeah. Actually, our go-to that ends up, it's multiple times throughout the summer, I do a loaded baked potato salad.
Oh, that sounds really, really good.
And to keep it within I like to use weird things. I use a medley of different potatoes. So there's the Yukon Golds,
They're
the
all
baby
different
reds, and
colors?
there's purple potatoes. So that anybody who's not been to the house, or worse, at a cookout and I've brought it, it's inevitable I will hear, "What's in this? Is this grapes or something?" Because they just see something
Right.
purple and they're like, "What?" And my kids know already, and they'll start with purple potatoes. Just eat it. Like that's just that. Like
Really like it, I promise.
yeah,
Just
but
try
it's
it.
got sour cream, it's got bacon, it's got cheese. You know, it's just
That sounds delicious.
full-on loaded baked potato in potato salad form.
That does sound delicious. You know, it's so funny. You know, you brought up, you know, the reaction that people have when you present something to them and it's unexpected. I remember having a cookout for my aunt and my uncle and my mom, and I made a gazpacho, and they were unfamiliar with gazpacho. And I made a cucumber gazpacho. And I put the presentation, I had a cucumber on top, and a little square cracker, and a square bowl, and it was just the perfect summer dish. And I served it, I was very proud of it, and I walked upstairs and overheard my mom say, "The soup's cold." God bless her.
She, of course, the one that didn't cook, right?
Right, right. She heard soup, and she was expecting it to be warm. She put it in her mouth.
The
and
first thing you think, or kind of when you see something and you expect it to taste a certain way based on what it looks like, and then you're like, "This is surprising."
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any more questions? All right. What are your favorite proteins, and what methods do you use to cook them? Well, we talked about the chicken,
Yeah.
the roasted chicken.
Yeah, that's you know, something that I make a lot is a recipe called chicken reshmi,
Okay.
and it's chicken in kind of a yogurt dressing that is then grilled. And the lunch bunch regularly requests the
So
chicken.
do they get to pick what the menu is?
Yeah, if I do requests, I'm like a disc jockey. I'll do requests, but there's definitely a playlist I've come up with.
Ah,
you know.
gotcha.
But yeah, so chicken and fish. I like fish as a protein because it's healthy, you know, especially if you bake it. And beans are a really good protein, you know, that are very healthy for you, have a lot of vitamins in. So those are my go-to proteins.
Okay. Catherine?
If I get to choose, it's anything that came out of the water. I love all things seafood.
Me too. I have to agree with you on that.
So if I get to pick, that's what our main protein is. But I get outnumbered a lot, and so we end up doing a lot of beef stuff. So if I'm doing that, the burgers, obviously,
the burgers.
or short ribs, or another doing big short ribs or little chunks of them. So meals with those in it are good.
All right. And now to our next question, I think. Cindy mentioned healthy. What are your favorite healthy meals to cook?
Ooh, favorite healthy meals to cook. You know, eating healthy is a practice. It's not a recipe or a meal for me. You know, and to eat healthy, I think most people think of the lyrics of Cheeseburger in Paradise by Jimmy Buffett. You know, I mean, I'm
Now
eating.
that's going to be stuck in our head.
Exactly. You're gonna love me. But you know, they think in terms of, wow, you know, I'm gonna have to eat a dollop of cottage cheese on a lettuce leaf to eat healthy. And really, if you read the labels on the food that you buy, you'd be surprised how much hidden sugar and hidden salt is in there. So that's another benefit, I think, of being a home chef, is I know what's going in, and I don't over sugar it, over salt it, you know. And if you just make different choices, like instead of the bag of potato chips, maybe have a handful of nuts, you know. Instead of white bread, try whole grain bread or wheat bread. Instead of white rice, brown rice, you know, and eat more baked goods or grilled food instead of all the fried food, which is really hard for me because you can fry anything and I would eat it. And you know, so really for me, it's not like a particular healthy food or anything. It's more of an overall practice.
Choices,
Yeah.
For us, it's going back to what you said. I mean, as a home chef, you can kind of control what goes into, and you can make almost anything healthy. I plant a garden every year, and inevitably I swear to myself that I won't get too many zucchini plants or eggplants, and I end up with a ton of them. So one of them that in our summertime recipe repertoire has become doing lasagna, but I swap out the noodles with either eggplant or
do like
zucchini
the long
to
slices?
and do those
Yeah.
to use up a whole bunch. That it's
Did you
just
ever do
swaps like that.
zoodles? Like the
I haven't, but that's only because I haven't bought another gadget to put in there to like.
I admittedly
and I don't
have
trust
one
my
of
knife
those
skills.
gadgets, and they are really cool.
I see them in the grocery store, and you know you can get them there. That I'll from time to time. Sweet potato ones are the ones I like for like the zoodles, like the veggie noodles.
Have you tried the spaghetti squash?
Love spaghetti squash.
I love spaghetti squash.
And that's super easy because you don't actually have to make
You
the
just scrape it.
noodles. You just
Yeah.
pull them right out.
Yeah, you just slice it in half, put it in the oven, you know, and then pull them out, and they're good to go and healthy and nutritious.
Yep.
What do the kids think of that?
They roll their eyes. They eat it anyways because they have grown up with my grandfather's favorite thing to tell us when we were little, and he didn't cook much. So, and what he did was that same vein of cream, box, can, something. But his favorite thing to tell us was, this ain't Burger King, you ain't getting it your way.
Ah.
So that has been the adopted philosophy in our house, that you'll give requests. Mom's going to pick what she wants to cook. So if you want your request, you have to volunteer that you're going to cook it yourself. Otherwise, mushrooms are the big ones. I get the mushrooms and anchovies are my two that I get fights on.
Oh,
Do they
but
eat
they're
them
so
though,
good.
ultimately?
Yes, because actually I'll make my version of a beef Wellington, and it's funny, I didn't tell them what went into that for the duxelles and everything. Loved it, wolfed it down, and then I just slid mushroom containers over and said,
Right, you tell
there's
them
all
after.
this.
They tell them after.
And they're like, okay, if it tastes like that, you can continue.
Just don't think about it too much.
Yes.
All right, a question from the audience. What spices do you use with beef and chicken? So, Catherine, why don't we start with you, because you talked about beef and hamburger being a big thing that your family likes. What kind of spices do you throw in with that?
I feel like the grocery store spice aisle lives in my kitchen. There's a little bit, I mean, we have harissa, we have, you know, I have my own barbecue spice blend I do where it's got some actually mango and habaneros in it. It depends on what I'm cooking but I don't like to just have boring. You've got to have some flavor to it. And spices actually are a great way to add flavor without adding calories and make it feel like you're cheating on a diet that you might have considered taking that you didn't really do. So that's,
Yeah, and you know, spices, what you said about spices, the thing that I've noticed are the spice aisles have grown in the grocery stores. There used to be just a very small spice aisle, and now you can get all these esoteric spices. I was looking at a recipe that called for Za'atar, Z-A''T-A''.
It's in my kitchen.
Yeah, and mine too. And I thought, I am never going to find that. I went to a popular grocery store and it was sitting right there, last on the rack for Z, the Zatar. But like you, it depends on what I'm cooking and what the recipe calls for. And yeah, like a chicken, if it's like an Indian dish, it would be cumin.
Yep.
You know.
And there's some, like cumin's a good one that goes between
yeah.
many different, you can use it for Middle Eastern, you can use it for Mexican, Spanish dishes.
Absolutely.
I think I've even seen some Mediterranean ones sometimes. Yeah, so versatile ones are awesome.
You know, I also do a beef dish that my friend asked me for the recipe for, and I'll share recipes. I will. I'm not you know, very proprietary about it, but it's Italian beef, and you get. I use chuck roast because it just has the right marbling to work, and again, it's one of these slow cooker meals, and the recipe calls for just a packet of Italian seasoning, but not Italian seasoning that you would get off the spice rack. This is the packets that you use to make your own homemade Italian dressing.
Okay.
So you take one of those and put it over, fill it with water, and put pepperoncini peppers on top. A jar of those little green peppers. Just put those on top with some onion and garlic, and just slow bake it forever. You know, for 8 to 10 hours.
That does sound good.
And it just
I love
falls apart.
Those little peppers.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you can eat them on like crusty bread. It makes a great sandwich, or you can serve it as a roast with potatoes or rice or whatever you want. And that's probably my favorite beef roast dish.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of questions about spices. You mentioned universal spices. Other than salt and pepper, what are your go-to? And we've kind of been talking about that a little bit. Cumin is one of them. You said it's kind of across the board. What else?
Rosemary, dill, thyme.
Red pepper flakes.
Oh yes,
yeah.
red pepper flakes.
They go
Red
in
pepper
so
flakes
much.
can take something that just seems like bland to automatically like.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that Turkish recipe I was mentioning earlier with the cranberry beans calls for red pepper flakes.
Okay.
And I think that's what just really sent it over the top.
Yeah. Makes it gives a little excitingness to it. So Catherine mentioned burgers as something she likes. What are some other favorite sandwiches? Okay.
Crab cakes, obviously.
Yes.
I mean,
Crab cakes.
with lots of meat in it. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you got to do it right. I like them when they're almost like very, very far from being a cake. They're almost falling apart. There's just chunks of meat. It's, but yeah, crab cakes are a big sandwich favorite.
Okay.
I like to do wraps. I've gotten into wraps. In fact, I like breakfast burritos for lunch. You know, and
Okay.
I like to
I
make
can see that.
Yeah, and it's almost like an egg sandwich,
Yeah.
but in a wrap. And I'll make the omelet, and olive oil is so very important. Talking about spices and sandwiches and everything, there's a great olive oil shop in Long Meadow. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
And vinegars.
Oh my goodness, an olive oil and vinegar tasting gallery. And olive oil, just like red pepper flakes, is the secret ingredient in so many things. And this olive oil emporium has all different kinds of olive oil from different regions, from Greece, from Spain, from France. But then they have infused olive oil, and they have like sage, garlic infused olive oil. They have olive oil that tastes like butter, so you can get that butter flavor without using butter.
I'll have to stop in there.
You do, and they'll let you taste it. They have little tasting cups, and you can taste it. And they have bacon flavored olive oil. So I use that when I'm making. So I use the bacon flavored olive oil when I'm doing the scrambled eggs, and then I'll throw in, like shallots, and maybe some tomato, some goat cheese, salt, pepper. And then wrap it in a wrap.
That sounds delicious.
Like a burrito wrap. Yeah. So it's not quite a sandwich, but I'll broaden it.
I think that
if
counts
I
as
can.
a sandwich.
Yeah.
I think that
You
counts.
can carry it.
You can carry it, and of course fried oyster sandwiches.
Yes.
Again.
Now we're talking. I love oysters. I love them. In fact, on my honeymoon, I got an oyster that had a little tiny pearl in it. It wasn't one that was like real big, but it's a little tiny. I still have it. We were down at St. Michael's. And oysters, love them. I think they're a love. You either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
Raw ones, not cooked ones. I think cooked ones, more people probably like. But
Yeah.
all right. So kitchen hacks. Our next question. Any kitchen hacks you want to share?
I think I've shared a couple already.
You have.
know.
I think a
Like-
lot of these things we've kind of talked about briefly as we've gone along. But
But since I wasn't born with the dough gene, I never try to make my own pie crust.
Okay.
I mean, there's just no reason to. You know, when Pillsbury has these wonderful rolled out, and there are other brands.
yeah, I
that
think
has
so. The beef Wellington in our program tonight from the Malot's Kitchen. It says for the puff pastry, Pepperidge Farm does a good job, so you don't
Right.
have to make it yourself.
Yeah,
So
I
that's a
go to
good hack.
all that kind of stuff. I use the Pepperidge Farm puff pastry. You know, there's a salmon with dill that you can do in puff pastry that's just
Ooh,
delicious.
That sounds really
You know, and they have perfected. You know, these chefs for these companies have perfected it so well that even when I do make it myself or other people make it themselves and I try it, it's like, that's delicious, but you could have used,
It saves a significant amount of time,
a
too.
lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of trouble, and truly nobody knows the difference. You can lie like a rug and get away with it.
All right, Catherine, what about you? Any secrets or hacks you
So
want to
for
share?
me, I grew up in the world of Sandra Lee, where it was semi-homemade, and I am not afraid to admit there are things, that can come out of a box, but they need love. That's my big, if I'm in a pinch, and I'll use like the Idaho mashed potatoes out of the package and doctor them up, and give them some love so they don't taste like they came out of a package, but
Put some red pepper flakes in.
add some like garlic in there,
Yeah,
seasonings,
right.
all those.
A little blue cheese.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's actually one of my 11-year-old's favorites things is blue cheese, olives. He's the oyster fanatic in our house. So
Cool.
yeah.
All right, so our next question we have, well, we talked about this too. What other elements do you prefer to buy and not make? Talked about dough. What about, other than dough and mashed potatoes, what are some other things that you might want to?
Kimchi. So a lot of the Asian dishes.
Yeah.
Sushi.
Sushi. The kimchi one, funny story. When my husband and I first got married, we lived in Hagerstown, and we were in a duplex, and right beside us was a gentleman who was retired Air Force, and he had met a woman from, I think, Korea that, or, we came home the one day, there's this smell.
The smell.
In the backyard. She's in the backyard with in a kid pool making kimchi,
Yeah.
but we pulled up, we get out the car, and my husband goes,
What?
died? What is that smell? I was like, that is kimchi. He's like, it's what? I was like, just don't ask. And went in the backyard, saw her making this, and he was like running around like pinching his nose, and told her how much I loved it. We ran errands, come home. There's a little jar of it sitting there. But he told me I wasn't allowed to eat it in the house. Now it's a normal thing.
That reminds me of that Golden Girls episode where Betty White's character Rose is making some kind of her St. Olive recipes, and she tells the other two, like, they're like, this smells terrible. I'm like, oh, well, you have to hold your nose and then eat one. And they're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted.
It's one of those things. It smells. The store-bought ones, though, aren't as potent on the smell, but they still have that punch of flavor that saves me, that I get to have it in the house and eat it.
That's a lot of work, too, especially if it's something that you want quickly and you can't make that quickly. How about this? We're just past the holiday season, but what do your holiday meals include?
Well, mine are fairly traditional.
Okay.
Because my grandmother was this wonderful home cook, and there were no recipes because she just created it out of nothing. And when I would ask her, she'd say, "Oh, pinch of that, a dollop of that." Okay, what is a pinch? What is a dollop? But she was lovely, and I learned that food is love at her elbow as a very small child, because she would make these wonderful traditional, like, Thanksgiving feasts, and then she would box it up and go take it to the neighbors who are elderly and who didn't have anyone coming over, and this was before Meals on Wheels, and that really resonated with me. So when she became too elderly to continue the tradition, I picked it up. And I made it the traditional holiday meal for everyone. I do 2 kinds of stuffings: oyster stuffing for those of us who like it,
Love oyster stuffing.
and chestnut, fresh, real chestnut stuffing
I don't know
for
if
those.
I've ever had ones with the real fresh chestnut.
Yeah, yeah, you can get them
too.
around the holidays, and you can roast them and peel them and then put them in the stuffing, and they're fabulous. And for Christmas, I like the traditional British beef, like a roast beef, and I make Yorkshire pudding.
Okay.
And pudding, when we think of pudding here in America, we think of chocolate pudding or vanilla pudding. And really, in Britain, Yorkshire pudding is more of a popover. So you take some of the pan drippings from the beef with some flour, and you pop it in a muffin tin and put it in. They come out this wonderful, delicious popover. So those are the kind of things that I do around the holidays.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, and then I make pecan pie, because I love pecan pie.
Everyone loves
You gotta have pecan pie.
Yes. Big staples for us are, I do a peach and Riesling glazed ham. That it gets this wonderful crust that the kids lovingly refer to as just pig candy. That I have to chase them out the kitchen because they're coming through while it's sitting there
They're
cooling
picking
down.
at
They're
it.
picking the crust top off of it and
That
eating
sounds
those.
so good, though.
I want that recipe.
Yes. I will send it to you.
I will appreciate it.
Yes, that one, and I do either a red wine poached pear pie. I don't do many of the desserts, and that pie dough totally comes out of a box. I will not lie. And I have a rosé one that I found both recipes from actually Rachel Ray. That it's a rosé, like you poach the pears in that, and then it has like a custard bottom. Those are my desserts that I do.
So is the ham, I'm so curious about the ham.
Yeah.
Is that something that was a family recipe, or is that something, where
Found
did
it
that come?
online.
Really?
Yep.
That sounds delicious.
I am a Pinterest junkie like that. I tell people because they'll ask, I post photos all the time of stuff I've made, and they'll be like, where, like I will send you where the recipe started. It probably had something this, that, and the other, but that's half the fun. I'm like, I'll start with a base, and then I make it my own. So,
Yeah.
And then I tell people, I'm like, here's the base. You go make it your own creation. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of Alton Brown, if you're familiar with him.
Yes.
He's very scientific, you know, and he's like, why food cooks the way it does. And so I'll take a recipe, and I will follow it religiously. And then I will change one thing at a time. Because if I change more than one thing at a time, I'm not sure what worked and what didn't work. But as we were talking, you reminded me of another holiday, like a holiday soup. And it's Stilton chestnut soup. And it is blue cheese and chestnut soup.
You have me a blue cheese.
I will give you that recipe if you give me your ham recipe.
Deal.
Swapping recipes.
Yes.
We are.
All right. What about frozen foods? Where do we stand on frozen foods, ladies?
There is one recent one that I have found on my go-to. I didn't have time to pull something night.
Yeah.
There's a brand called Innovasion in the grocery stores.
Innovasion. Okay.
There's this pretty good fried rice, and their General Tso's, it's got the
Really?
spice. It's good. It's on point. So
Cool.
that's my frozen one I love.
Cindy, thoughts on frozen foods?
Usually, well, frozen foods got me through the first part of my life, so I tend to kind of give that aisle a wide berth, because that's kind of why I became a home chef. But, you know, frozen pizzas when you're in a pinch, you know, some of those with the rising crust they've perfected. Frozen vegetables, of course, you know, frozen peas and, you know, frozen veggies are good. And Stauffer mac and cheese is my
I have to say, I don't know what it is.
I know.
With this Stauffer
It's like
mac and
creamy
cheese.
goodness.
It's just,
Oh, that is my guilty pleasher. That is my guilty pleasure.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, and I have a funny story about that. I would buy it, and my husband's going to kill me, but we were shopping together, and he said, why don't you get this Kraft mac and cheese in a box? I have nothing against it. In fact, it's delicious. But I said, well, I prefer Stauffer. So I said, but he said, it's too expensive. You know, this is a lot cheaper. And I said, yes, but I like this. So I bought myself that, and I said, you know, we're not going to fight. You know, you get your boxes of Kraft.
You get your blue box.
You get your blue box, and I'm going to get my Stauffer. You know, so then I came home all set to eat my Stauffer. I opened it up. It's not there. there's plenty of blue boxes up there. And I said, what happened to the mac and cheese? Or I ate it.
And he probably really liked it.
Oh my goodness, it's the little things, you know.
Yes.
No, he really liked it, but you know, we made it through.
It's like comfort food at its
It is.
finest, right?
It is. Yeah.
Let's see. What about fresh or dried herbs?
Wow. Well, like you, I get a little container herb garden every year going of basil and just all the herbs that I can find. I mean, lemon basil, mint, rosemary, and I just, use it, and then I will dry it and use them throughout the winter. So I would say both.
Yeah, I do both. Because, like if it's one of my things where I'm cooking for a long period, the dried ones definitely, because the fresh is, you have to double it up, you have to push the envelope to get, like they're better for finishing, or if it's more of a quick prep. I take in, for my herbs, I will freeze them in olive oil so that then, like when I'm cooking, I can just pop them in and get a little bit of that flavored olive oil thing happening. So, and that gets me through some of the winter. But
I like that idea. I can do that.
That's a good idea. Oh, in summertime too, freeze fruit and use fruit instead of ice cubes.
Yes, grapes and wine. It's just, keeping it all in the family. It's frozen grapes.
That sounds delicious too.
Yeah.
What about thoughts on making baked fries or potatoes crispy?
Baked potatoes crispy?
Any thoughts on making baked fries or potatoes crispy?
Tater tots. We just had actually tater tots last night, I think it was, or the night before. I don't know. My days run together. But can never get them crispy enough in the oven.
Yeah, I think that's what they're asking. Like, how do you get baked
So I'll cook
crispy?
them, but then I will spray the top with a little bit of spray oil.
Okay.
So that while they're baking, but then give them another extra
little
minute or
crispy
two underneath the broiler
Broiler.
to get a little crunchiness. But don't do it with those like shoestring cut fries because they just never take to it. The broiler hates them, and then you have burnt pieces that you eat anyways because mommy put it on your plate.
Eat it. So to make baked potatoes crispy, I forget where I learned this, but again with the olive oil, you get olive oil and you drizzle it and just coat the baked potato in olive oil and a little bit of sea salt on the outside, and then put it in the oven and just bake it for a very long time. I usually give it like an extra 15 to 20 minutes and take it out. And don't wrap it, because everyone, at least when I was a kid, everyone would wrap baked potatoes in tin foil or aluminum foil.
Steams them.
Yeah, and it steams them. Don't put them in that. And the baked potato will get this wonderful kind of crispy skin that you can cut through. And then the potato inside is moist and
That's the key,
delicious.
skipping the aluminum foil.
Yeah, just don't put them in aluminum foil. Cover them in olive oil and a little bit of sea salt and bake them a little bit longer.
All right, here's a good question. What is the recipe you haven't yet made but want to?
That's a good question because when I find a recipe I want to make, I make it.
Yeah, same.
It's like,
You don't have sort of like a blog of recipes that
There's
you
probably a block of them in my Pinterest stuff that
There
I've
you go.
seen that
or
I'm
maybe
like,
some in
"Ooh."
our recipe book tonight.
Yeah.
We have all
Yeah.
those to make.
Yeah. I can't think of any specifically, but I get some of my favorite cooking magazines, and I haven't cooked my way through Julia Child or Emeril Lagasse yet, but I'm sure that there's some that
Lots
I
in
haven't
there.
done. Yeah,
What is the
it's a good question.
the most recent recipe you've made?
So most recent will be I'm tackling tomorrow night. I was telling you guys
Yes.
that I'm making a short ribs chili that I've looked at. I saw it in one of my magazines. I was like, that looks really good. And pickled red onions on top and queso fresco on there. And it just sounded like a nice, warm comfort food.
End of January kind of recipe.
Throw it on the stove top. It's just going to sit there and run all day while I'm home being a bum because it's Sunday. So, yeah.
So the most recent one I made was the Turkish braised cranberry beans with the carrots and the red pepper and onion.
Sounds like a good
and garlic.
January recipe too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about salads? What do we feel about salads?
Salads, you know, I used to look at a salad and think, okay, I'm going to have to choke you down to get to the good stuff. But then I went to DC. Some friends of mine took me to a restaurant there, and I'm going to butcher this because I took Spanish in high school, not French, but I believe it's pronounced salad niçoise. And actually, I wrote down the ingredients in case we did talk about salad, and this salad eats like a meal. I mean, it's got chunks of tuna, but tuna in oil, not tuna in water. Tuna packed in oil. It's got green beans, the small, like golden potatoes or red potatoes. The greens are kind of a spring mix of greens.
Okay.
Anchovies, yes, just don't tell anybody, hide them under the greens. They're delicious when they mix in. Olives, capers, hard-boiled eggs, and a Dijon mustard dressing.
That sounds like a multi-course meal.
Oh my goodness. And when I got that, I fell in love with it, went home, looked it up, made it, and it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
That sounds delicious.
Yes, salad niçoise.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, and it's healthy, delicious. You know, you have your protein, fish.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
How do you feel about salads, Kat?
I love them. We do grilled salads, so you grill like the romaine,
Okay.
so that you get a little bit of that char. The game changer in our house has been making sure, which I think a lot of people when they're starting to cook at home, they're making salads, layer it. Just like you do nachos and everything. So you do like a little bit of it, like your lettuce and your toppings, and then do another layer of lettuce and the toppings. That way you're not left at the bottom just with lettuce and nothing else. Because, you know, especially like if you have kids, they sit there and they pick at all the good bits. This way they have to dig to get the good bits, and they get a little, so you don't end up with just a bowl of sad lettuce.
Very good.
I still do that.
Yeah.
All right, how about this? So, Catherine, you mentioned around the world with a fork. What international cuisines do you like, and what are your favorite dishes from those cultures?
Wow.
I'd have to say for me, the warm, like right now, this cold weather has me just craving. I love some of my Irish dishes I make outside of corned beef and stuff, but like Dublin coddle, where it's just like sausages and potatoes, or shepherd's pie with Guinness added in, of course, for the beef. I mean, you gotta, just to get that thick, you know, sausage or sauce to
That
it.
sounds
It's just,
also a great late January cold night kind of recipe.
yeah. We do a whole week of like Irish, Scottish inspired recipes around St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. Very cool. Cindy, what about you?
Oh, I like so many different cuisines. I really, really love Greek food.
Me
and
too, yeah.
I adore, there used to be, sadly it is no more, but one of my favorite restaurants to go to when I was a starving college kid was in Georgetown, right outside DC, and it was Icarus. And they had the big meat that, in the window turning that they would cut, and souvlaki sandwiches with, you know, that flavored lamb and feta cheese, and I just absolutely fell in love with the cuisine. I also love Indian food too. Just adore Indian food. I love making it at home. There's a milk chicken that I make that when I do, the whole house smells like an Indian restaurant, you know.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not sure. Do we have any other question? Last question from the audience. Oh, here we go. We're your go-to desserts. I want to know that you like to make, and what you, if your favorite to eat isn't what you like to make, what is it?
Well, I mentioned the pecan pie. You know, I mentioned I like making rum cakes and the creme de cassis cake. I love cookies, just making cookies from scratch, all different kinds of cookies. I love the holidays for making
Christmas
cookies. Yeah, I like giving them as gifts.
That's a great answer. It seems so simple, but you know what? Cookies are delicious.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these wonderful desserts out there. You know, I went through my cheesecake phase where I made all different kinds of cheesecake, you know, like a chocolate cheesecake, New York cheesecake, a macadamia nut cheesecake.
Ooh.
You know, I would make all different kinds of cheesecakes. I have all these springform pans, one the shape of a heart to make a raspberry cheesecake for Valentine's Day. So I went through that phase. But and now it's cookies, I think. What are yours?
For me, well, if it's not the pies I mentioned earlier, cookies. But we haven't made cookies in a few years because, so my daughter is the budding baker in the house, learning from Nana. I thought I'd be the cool mom one year and you know, help encourage this baking love, and we were going to make Christmas cookies. Home chef tip, read how many it says on the yields. I let her pick out, there was like 5 or 6, and I'm like, oh, well, we can make that. And it didn't sound like it had a lot of ingredients that I needed to buy, so I'm just totally naive to this till I ended up with 783 cookies in our house. It covered my table. I was putting leaves in the table to lay them out. I had them on a stand in the kitchen. We were giving away cookies that year like crazy.
Happy holidays.
Wow.
Yes, because like one of them, I didn't read it. It made like 5 dozen, and I'm looking at Riley going, "Did you know?" She was like, "I just thought it said 5. I thought that." I'm like, "Dozen." So, but yeah.
Lesson learned, but I'm sure everyone else was thankful for.
We were so sick of cookies by the time it was said and done. And my
freeze them?
My grandfather loves cookies, and he was telling us, "Don't bring more."
Well, you know what? That's if you're gonna have a huge amount of something, cookies isn't really a terrible thing to have a huge amount of.
I thought that until 783 sat in my kitchen.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you ladies both for being here and talking with me through this evening. It's really been an enjoyable time, and I've learned a lot of things.
Well, thank you for having us,
Yes,
and for letting us be part of this wonderful event for the Washington County Arts Council.
Yes, we want to thank the Arts Council as well. Of course, thank you to Fountainhead. Thank you to all our sponsors, and we also hope that you will visit the Art Council Gallery and shop, and of course, join us again next year.